Hey y'all, what's going on? I'm Jay, and today we have something very special for you all. We're going to be taking an in depth look at Raye's album, My 21st Century Blues. And here I have a very special co host with me, Miss Nina Blue. Nina, do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Hey guys, so Jay and I are friends from our Berkeley days. I'm a singer,
Hmm.
songwriter, producer, and an artist. I put out my debut album last October. Yeah, just living in LA, living the dream.
Awesome, awesome. Yes, we survived grad school together, which
We
is,
did
I don't,
almost every single class we
yeah,
had together.
I don't know that there is a tighter bond that exists out there in the world. So I'm super excited to talk to you about music and, all adjacent things to it. So let's look at this incredible piece of work by Ray. Let's play it back. Before we get too into the album, Nina, are you kind of sort of familiar with Ray's backstory as an artist?
A little bit. I know she's primarily a songwriter. That story of songwriting for other bigger artists while also building
Yeah.
her own brand. I listened to the album, but I know she's British, and that is all that I know.
Amazing. Yeah. So she was actually, yeah, she was a songwriter and she was inspired and very much encouraged by my favorite, Charlie XCX. So that is mother to both of us, weirdly. So we have Miss XCX to thank for a lot of other artists out there as well. But yeah, so Ray was with Polydor Records for, I believe it was like 7 years, and she was kind of stuck in this rut of just releasing like EDM hit after EDM hit that a lot of the time she wasn't even like being credited for, and they were in a way kind of holding her album hostage for like the entire time she was there until she sent out like a tweet and kind of went off on them where she was basically like, I've done everything they asked me. I switched genres. I worked 7 days a week. Ask anyone in the music game, they know. I'm done being a polite pop star. I want to make my album now, please. That is all I want. And I think as a creative, it's like so that's such a relatable sentiment, right? It's like you wanna make your babies, your your songs, and put them out into the world before they kinda just feel like they're not fresh anymore. So I can only imagine her frustration for 7-ish years. That's crazy.
Jeez. It's unfortunately a common story that
Yeah.
the more you get into the music industry, the more you hear it of these people who get nabbed up in bad deals when they're young. They don't know enough about contracts. And honestly, I look back on all of this, I would have completely fallen victim to all of it. You think that you've made it, it's this big record
Yeah.
exec with this big fat contract. You don't know well enough to go to an entertainment lawyer. They say they have a lawyer for you. There's all kinds of like scams that they have. And what they're trying to do is actually the A&R department is a write-off for most labels, 1. So, they're trying to put you into a contract, and 2, they're trying to snap you up before somebody else does just in case you pop off.
Exactly. It's like they just
So,
wanna
it's a
have you.
scam.
Yeah, they just wanna have you so that nobody else does. So, I thought that we'd go through each track, just give, our opinions, thoughts, and whatnot, and y'all, I'm sorry, like, YouTube can be difficult sometimes, so I will try to insert clips here and there so that there's some music included, but if it's not there, it's because the YouTube gods did not want it to be. So, don't blame me, don't blame Nina, that's just how it be sometimes. But yeah, let's just dive into it. We have here an opening track just titled Introduction that kind of brings us into the jazz club. And I don't know, I appreciate things like this because it makes the album feel like it's an experience, like it is a collection of songs meant to be like heard and listened to together. Whereas sometimes I feel like nowadays when artists put out albums, and it could just be because of the label interference, but it can sometimes feel just like a collection of singles or like random songs. But little things like this and Fiend um at the end, I think make it feel like an actual event, if you will.
Mhm. No, I totally agree. I have a note here. The art of the album is not lost. Her transitions are phenomenal, but we'll get into the transitions a little bit later. Just to start with this, I think the last time somebody did this was that like it really popped off really well was Justin Timberlake and Pharrell on Justified, and it gives it such a conversational feel. it gives it a live music feel. You know that you're in for an experience. It almost feels like we're sitting in that jazz cafe listening to her with a small band behind her on a mic, and she's telling stories. And it sets up her very conversational tone because there's something about Raye that she has these phenomenal vocal performances that feel like she's delivering it over a glass of wine while the 2 of you are sitting catching up in a cafe.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, actually. But I also like the, like, old meets new feeling of this particular, like,
Yes.
intro, like, throwing in the producer tag
Little help from Mike Savage.
in there, like, while the jazz piano is going on. It's this funny interaction of, like, old school meets new, and it's like, what is this album gonna be? It's gonna be, like, a little bit of everything probably, right?
Yeah, and it definitely is.
Yeah, and I mean, it also kinda sets us up like we're about to hear the soundtrack of her life, and I think it leads up perfectly into Oscar-winning Tears also.
So well,
Yeah.
because it does have almost a cinematic feel to it, like the curtains are opening and then you're going into Oscar-winning Tears, which has a massive cinematic feel to it.
And, like, when it comes to Oscar-winning Tears, I like that the verse sections feel like she's just kinda talking to us at first, so it gives us more of, like, kind of this script feel, which kind of aligns perfectly with the overall concept of the song, which I think is really brilliant. I've mentioned this before on one of the other reactions I've done to her, but, like, this song reminds me so much of Take a Bow by Rihanna because it's, like, the same concept, it's just, like, a different twist on it, and she approaches it with, like, her own spin of like, her unique take on melodies that are kind of rap song and then like also like crazy belting in the bridge section. So it's a really interesting song, both from just like her melodies to the how the concept is pulled off, I think.
You're absolutely right, and I think I'm gonna sound like a broken record saying conversational over and over again. The verse
Mhm.
is so conversational, but what's great about the chorus is that it escalates and it feels like a movie soundtrack, and the fact that these 2 dynamics go so well together, I mean, just speaks to her and her producer's genius.
Yeah, and, like, looking back now, I think it's, like, really funny that she starts it off by saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about this fucking bum." That's so funny, like, I just
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna tell you about one of the many men. Name is irrelevant.
it tells us so much about
Anybody
her.
in LA who's dated an actor will tell you if they have Oscar-winning tears, they're a fucking bum of
Y
a boyfriend.
yeah, it just starts us off so it just tells us so much about her
She
and,
got
like, the
fucked over
intro.
by an actor, we know, we
Yeah.
know, we get it.
Do we wanna move on to Hard Out Here?
Yes.
So I think that the beat on this one is crazy, and it just again further showcases like this contrast that we're gonna have with like old meets new, and is this like really beautiful moment about her kind of reclaiming herself and her time as a person, and as as a woman. And when I got to this part of the album, upon like a second listen through of it, I realized that this album actually reminds me a lot of The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill because
Yes.
it has a lot of, like, similar that mentality of, like, "There's so many people against me, but you're not gonna get me down, and I know I'm the underdog in this situation, but I do not care. I own myself, I know who I am, and I'm going to be successful in that." And I love the, kind of Bible verse quote here, the "No weapon formed against me shall ever prosper." I don't know why. I'm a sucker when songwriters can get that kinda thing to work or, like, a good old-fashioned idiom because I think that that can come across as, like, corny sometimes, but the way that she uses it, it's just you feel the impact of it, and the way that she describes her pen and it's about to just spray out is so vivid, and I think that's a really cool way of saying, like, "I'm about to read all of you for filth
Pen is a gun, I'm finna spray now.
with just my lyrics. That's all I need."
I feel like 90% of the time when something really cliché doesn't work, I think it's a lack of confidence. I feel like you didn't
Ah.
go 100% for it. Just as a songwriter, when I hear things and I go, "Ooh," because when someone commits to the bit you hear it and you feel it and you're like, "Ah, good one." She committed on this one. She has absolutely been down and out and through it. I love that you just talked about the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill because I was listening to that in the shower literally 2 days ago, and I come out, my roommate's like, "I haven't heard that in a million years." I'm like, "This is one of the greatest albums of all time." I feel like as a songwriter, I just need to check in on it regularly.
I very much so. I mean, that's the album that got me started with writing songs, so it's yeah, I if I'm comparing something to Miseducation, that's the highest praise of compliment I can give it
True.
personally. For me,
And both of these albums are thematic. They have a theme, they know where
yeah.
they're going, and they commit to the bit.
Yeah, and there's also that, like, theme of I'm going to not ignore the past, but I'm gonna learn from it and just keep growing from
Mhm.
it as a person. And from, like, a, production perspective too, I like that this one is, like, it feels very wide, and it feels like there are these elements on, like, the far stereo field, so when she's, like, saying, "Maybe I'll bounce, maybe I'll bounce, maybe I'll bounce back," like, you feel and you hear that in the way that it's produced, so I love when, like, little production elements like that are incorporated that, like, make sense with the lyrics, you know?
I do too, and just to talk about Maybe I'll Bounce Back, that just goes to show you can't have too many hooks in one song. That could have been one song in and of itself. The song could have she could have split these 2 into 2 songs, and one could have been Maybe I'll Bounce Back, and one would have been about, like, Hard Out Here, but it wouldn't have been as hard hitting, 1, but 2, I think sometimes we're afraid to put too much into one song because it will sound like we're doing too much, but there's no such thing as too many hooks. Instrumentally, vocally, lyrically, there is no such thing as too many hooks in a song.
Yeah, let's move on to Black Mascara.
'Cause the hooks in this song made me realize that Raye is not just a songwriter, she's not just a singer instrumentalist, like, she is a producer. I wish she would be more forward about that because the writing of this song, I don't think could be written without the production in mind, without wanting to play with production. The way that I was hearing it just, like, almost circle around me was phenomenal. Like, I just loved it, and I was like, "Damn, she's a producer too. Like, she knows what she's doing in that room." I don't necessarily think she, like, writes into the DAW. For those of you who don't know, like, DAW, digital audio workstation, that's what we record music on, for those of you who are just casual listeners. But some artists, like, they really write into it. Some artists, they write outside, then they bring it in. And I think a lot of people do a lot of both. I do some of both. I've done a lot of both. But this song, I was like, damn, she's a producer because the only way you would think of that hook would be to think about a loop or think about this or think about that. And
Yeah.
so on this song and on the next song, Escapism, as well, I was like, she is a producer. And I want to call that out because I think a lot of times women, especially if they don't do it all themselves, like from start to finish, kind of hold back on calling themselves a producer or they don't brag about it, or we attribute the success of the production to the men who are on. And I think that's just an antiquated misogynistic bullshit thing that we're still dealing with within the industry.
Yeah, the other thing is, like, that term can mean a lot of different things. So it's like I think it's easy to, like, get discouraged and think like, "Oh, well, yeah, like you said, I didn't make the whole beat from scratch, so like I'm not a producer." But that doesn't make you not one. But yeah, I mean, this song, the minute that you hear it, it's like you're immediately in the club that she's
Yeah.
talking about, right? Like, you're immediately in that mind frame, that space that she's talking about. It's like we're crying in the club, and I I love songs that are ironic like that because they shouldn't make sense. Those 2 things, like, the idea of being sad in the club doesn't it doesn't always make sense, but, like, it just there's something about that irony that just always gets me. I love that kinda song.
What do you mean it doesn't make sense? We've all been in the club crying about some bum ass man.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't know, in my mind, like, being in
But you're right, it's the juxtaposition, the
Yeah.
oxymoron of the situation. Why am I crying in an environment that's designed to, like, stimulate me and make me happy? And
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's because you're seeking something that you need in the moment, and it's not fulfilling you enough to get you out of the mindset of whatever fuck ass man is Messing with your head.
Yeah, it's probably just 'cause my headspace when I think of the club just goes to, like, a whole different place,
Yeah.
but you're absolutely right, and, she paints this picture so vividly of just, like, somebody and it's, like, because the hook here is so repetitive, it feels like it's something that whatever just happened, it feels like it's a fresh wound. Like, another thing that's, I think, important to note about Raye as a performer for, like, anybody that doesn't know about, like, her live performances is that she very rarely ever performs any songs in the same way that she does them on the album. So, like, come after, like, seeing her live and a lot of, like, her live performances on, reactions that I've done to her, coming back to this album was really, really weird. It was like a different sonic experience all over again. Even though I had heard it like a couple times before, it was just so different. And she did this song actually at Pride, and she really played up like the whole techno aspect of it. And her band that she always has like the same band with her for like the most part, and they were like in the back raving, just like the trombonist was just having the time of his life, and it was just like the funniest thing ever. I can tell her band loves working with her. So, that's an incredible thing to see as a musician myself because you don't really see that anymore. Like just the camaraderie with like the main musician and the people that accompany them. And that's very much like a jazz thing, which sure, her roots come from. So I was elated to see that. It was so funny. It was so just fun. It was one of my favorites from that set. Should we get into escapism?
Escapism.
Yeah, the
My
big banger of this album, or one of them anyway.
it I would say it's the biggest banger of this
Yeah,
album,
yeah.
maybe, yes? Do I wanna say that? Okay, fine. I'll stand 10 toes down on that statement. I love this song. I love how unhinged it is. I mean, there's a reason it popped off like it did. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, "Man, I've heard clips on this on TikTok," and I was going on, like, a long drive, and I was like, "Ah," we line up things that we're interested in hearing and take off, and I was like, "Damn, she did a big one. Who is this girl?"
And it doesn't sound like anything I've heard. Like,
No.
I don't think. It's very like, almost every part of this song is distinct to me. Even the way that the lyrics are structured and put together because it kinda throws us into the middle of this situation, like, we don't know what the hell's going on, and based on where the story goes, it doesn't seem like she does either, but that seems like it's the entire point. Because she throws us into the middle of the situation where she's kind of already with this other guy, and then later on we find out that it's because she got dumped and is just trying to get away from that. And the chorus section of this song is unique because it doesn't
All sections of
actually.
the song are unique, but
Yeah, yeah.
yes.
The chorus doesn't actually like, it doesn't have the word escapism in it. It does raise the question of, like, what makes a chorus, I think, and it's ultimately I think for me, it's, like, the part of the song where you give us, like, the big why. Like, why does this
Mhm.
song exist? Like, what is the actual big message behind this song, you know?
Absolutely. I love that it departs from that kind of typical way of naming the song is like 1, either the biggest hook or it's 2, the main event in the chorus. No, this chorus delivers the emotion of a person who is trying to escape from her pain,
Yeah.
and I mean, it does a big one. It really does.
And the feature on there with 070 Shake, who does the bridge section, is like I love the vocal processing on it because it's like it almost feels like it's Ray's internal monologue speaking to her as opposed to like a duet kind of moment. And it just it makes the it makes you self-reflect on yourself as the listener. And then when that part of the song is over and you just hear this loop of I'm dying, I'm dying, I'm dying over and over again. Like I didn't catch that the first time I heard the song, but like upon hearing it a couple other times and like catching that, I really thought to myself like, wow, this is actually like a horrifying experience that to have in real life. And I'm sure it's happened to somebody before where like they're trying to do this and they might actually be in a situation where they feel like they're dying because they maybe took it too far.
You know what this song feels like? It feels like you're on a night out with friends and your friend is like, "Oh, I'm gonna meet up with this other girl," and you all get into the cab together and she's having an absolute mental breakdown. And you
Yeah.
don't know this person, but you're immediately like, "Are you okay? Like, can I help you? Tell" and they
Yeah.
start, like, just word vomiting the story to you, and you're like, "Oh my god." But what I love about this song is there is a moment for this song to feel so complete, and they don't do that. They write that outro that you're talking about,
Yeah.
and it fades into it's very difficult, especially in the album context, to talk about the song without talking about the next song, which is Mary Jane,
Mhm.
because it feels like almost like her coping mechanisms have betrayed her. And so going into the next song about her coping mechanisms, how they've never done her as dirty as another man, etc., I think is a really interesting choice because you're right. She's at a point where it's like there's no helping her. This is probably one of the best songs that illustrates what rock bottom feels like,
Yeah.
maybe of all time. If I
Yeah.
were to like, make a playlist of songs for someone at rock bottom, I don't know why I would do that, I don't think it would help them, but, like, let's just say I'm trying to write a rock bottom
That's so
song, so I make
shady.
a
You're
playlist
like,
for my
"Here,
own.
I thought of you and put this playlist together."
You seem like you're having a hard time. Here, have a
Yeah.
worse one.
And this is the intro song. This is at the very top.
"Hey, babe, I picked you up off the bathroom floor last night, I think you need this playlist."
Mhm. Peak crashing out song. I love it.
Peak crash out.
Yeah.
Sweet, sweet Mary Jane.
All right, so I mentioned Mary Jane a little bit earlier. I love this song.
I do
For
too.
those of you, I don't know who wouldn't know this, but Mary Jane is like a street name for marijuana. So she's talking about like her substance issues or codependencies, I would say, and
Mhm.
about how they've never done her as wrong as a man, but then also talking about them as if they've also had a tumultuous relationship. I think it's a really I love this idea of, like, personifying these substances who have, like, felt like they've been there for you, but have also kind of betrayed you at the same time.
Yeah.
Girls going through therapy, like, that's what this song means to me.
Yeah, for sure. I think I mentioned this when I talked about the Tiny Desk performance, but this song, like the way it sounds, reminds me a ton of Ain't No Sunshine by Bill
Yes.
Withers. And I feel like I'm just knowing her, I feel like that had to have been intentional.
Had to have
Yeah.
been. It also reminds me of Tom Petty's Last Dance with Mary Jane lyrically,
Uh,
not necessarily in any kind of sonic manner, but with that personification. But there is something that's having fun with the subject matter, and I'm such a lyricist. I love when I can tell that a songwriter is having fun, and that's what's going on here, is that they're playing with language, and it's fun for them.
yeah. And it's really interesting. Like, as a songwriter, I feel like it's hard to talk about substances in a song, just for me anyway, in a way that's like not too on the nose. You know what I mean? And it's like this is kind of a brilliant way to speak about why they're a good thing and a bad thing. It kind of paints like this gray area that I think is hard to pull off with this kind of subject matter.
That's true, especially it's such a difficult topic to get into, and she's specifically very careful she's not talking about addiction. Addiction is a
Yeah.
disease. But I think I've talked to friends about this who have gone sober. They've gone sober for a while, right? Just to see how they feel. And a lot of people have talked to me about they don't have addiction, they have codependency. When you talk to people who like really have addiction issues, they tell you these horrible stories. So John Mulaney just had a really good bit about it. And he's like, these are the stories I'm willing to tell you, imagine the ones that I'm not, which was a really profound moment for me of like addiction is a fucking disease. So if you feel like you need a glass of wine at the end of the night, that is a codependency. So she's very careful to talk about this codependent relationship she has and not go into the disease of addiction, which I don't know Ray personally, but that's kind of I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. I think it's a conversation that's coming up more and more, especially just like with friends in their late 20s and early 30s who are like taking stock on their life and thinking of what makes them feel good and what doesn't. This song speaks to a lot of different things. It speaks to a lot of different places where, I think a lot of people have been, and that continues the relatability of the album.
Yeah, for sure. Which I think leads perfectly into the next song.
Thrill is gone, thrill is gone.
The thrill is
The
gone.
thrill is
Speaking of
gone.
something that we've all felt,
Yeah.
oh my god. Oh, man. There's the thrill is gone in a relationship of like, "Oh, wow, that's all that there was, and I'm out." And
Yeah.
then there's the thrill is gone, it's like, "Oh, just the honeymoon phase is over." So even the title itself is so interesting. It could go either way.
Mhm. And I feel like it's a title and, like, situation that every couple, no matter how good they are together, has probably experienced at some point. So
As a matter of fact, you need to expect the thrill being gone.
yeah,
Like,
of
there will be a
course.
moment where you're just comfortable, you're just part of each other's lives.
And I do have to say though, Ray, you say he's a Leo sun, Leo moon, and Leo rising. That's partly
You
your
bet
fault.
yourself.
You did that to yourself. If you I'm sorry. Like I have Leo moon and I can be a little vain sometimes. So for him to be all three, that's crazy. I mean, but I love the prosody of like the middle section of the song, like quite literally slowing down. So it feels like cut time almost in a way. And then it picks
Yes.
back up, which is again very indicative of a lot of relationships, good and
I've
bad.
noticed, honestly, more and more, I've noticed with artwork, I've noticed all over the place, if something is working or not, it usually has to do with prosody. We use
Yeah.
prosody to talk about the way that, subject matter of the song and all of the elements come into play, but I've noticed prosody just in, like, movie scenes, and I've noticed it in, online videos. More recently, I noticed it in the way that an artist used AI to make something feel inhuman. And I was like,
Mm.
"That's prosody. That's how
Yeah.
AI should be used, because they were trying to make something feel inhuman because it is inhumane, and I was like, "Fantastic use of prosody." I don't have another word for it because that's the word that we use, but oftentimes, I'll listen to a song and be like, "The reason why this isn't working is because of a lack of prosody."
All right. Anything else on this one?
No, but I'm excited to talk about Ice Cream Man.
I am not, but let's get into it.
Ice cream man.
Just because it's a
So
sad song.
it is a sad song. It's interesting that prosodically, it doesn't have, like, a very miserable feel to it, but it is about the covert way that men steal power from women, and so the fact that the song itself is kind of covertly sad, it sounds a little upbeat, but it sounds like there's something a little bit wrong here, speaks to the
Yeah.
absolute genius of the song. The song is a writ large warning to all other women in this industry to watch your back. Unfortunately, a lot of women and gender expressive people that I talk to have very similar stories, and
Oh
I'm
yeah.
really glad for the way that the story is told.
Yeah. And it's like to me this song is ironic for two reasons. Like Ice Cream Man sounds kind of like it's gonna be I don't know why. I was thinking it was gonna be like "Sweet Sugar Candy Man," like a Christina
Yes.
Aguilera kinda thing, but it goes obviously in the completely different direction. So it's, ironic in that sense, but it's also like he's not the main subject or if it was a group of different people she was talking about, it's like they're not actually the subject matter of the song, she is, and kinda stepping into her power despite being in that situation. It's like she's still the main character and by proxy, like the listeners that have probably, gone through something similar.
I think it speaks to one of the major themes of this album is reclaiming power.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think if you just listen to escapism, you wouldn't get that, which would be unfortunate. But I think escapism serves as a marker for rock bottom and how far she has come. But Ice Cream Man is definitely a reflection on all that she's been through, and it's a reclamation of power, I think, is most of this album, not just the story behind the album, but the story of resilience in herself. She talks about being a resilient person, and it's almost like when you're giving yourself a mantra in the mirror because 'cause you've been in a bad place and you just I mean, after you brush your teeth, you look up and you're like, "I am a strong, capable, powerful woman." sometimes the only
Yeah,
person who's gonna tell you that is
is
you, and you
you.
need to hear it. So,
Absolutely.
it feels like a turning point where she's done being a victim. She's going to carry those experiences with her, but in a way that feels like a survivor. So, I think the song isn't, like, fun to listen to, but it's an important song.
I mean, she said it's her least favorite to perform live before, but like she still does it because she's like, other people need that have been through this need to hear it. And
I
even
have that song.
yeah, and even like sonically, I really like that the production is like really simple and it's like kind of dour at the beginning, and then it actually like builds up into this very like cathartic, sparkly big moment towards the end. It's not like overly over the top, but it is like this subtle kind of cathartic, like aha moment, like this moment where you can finally kind of breathe and reflect on this situation in a way where it feels like you're gonna move on in a positive light from it.
And I think you saying that, I'm just now realizing because 'cause I'm looking at the track list, in front of me. It's interesting that it's the very dead center of the album. This is a 15-track album, it's track number 8, and that this is, like, a turning point, and so where it sits, again, I'm just this whole album is a work of art. I'm beside myself just with that thought alone of, like, "Okay, this is the song I wrote. This is the middle of the album, so this is the turning point. This is, we're getting over it. We're reclaiming ourselves."
Flip a switch on a brick and I
All right, so flip a switch. So for me, I remember saw her say somewhere that this is the song that I need to listen to when I need to remember who I am, and I think that's I think that's really interesting. That's one of my favorite memes actually. And it's just like everybody needs like a song or a saying or something that takes them back to a place of like power, if that makes sense. So I think it's interesting that it's called Flip a Switch for that
I
reason.
think we all need that empowerment playlist that we need to turn on when we're having a really shitty day.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And this should go on it for sure. I love the Spanish feel and vibe in the beginning. I love the beat. I love the way that she's talking about sitting in a club drinking Hennessy, which is such a typically like you would hear like male rap stars talking about that. So there's something
Yeah.
very confident about it. Like there's something very flip a switch about it, like, almost like she's becoming the person who's fucked her over, but doing it better. It's the whole song itself is so interesting. I love the Spanish feel. It ties into, I think, the album artwork a lot because the album artwork I looked at today and I realized how much it reminded me of Salvador Dali.
Oh yeah, with like the
Yeah,
hands
the
and the
persistence of
okay.
memory, the way it's kind of like
Yeah.
and I think that it's on t like, the whole pile of instruments, like, kind of all melting together is a perfect encapsulation of what this album is, because this song too, it brings in a different genre, it brings in that kind of Spanish flamenco feel, but it's very Raye, like, and it's so fascinating how she takes everything and just makes it hers.
don't really like nobody.
Body dysmorphia was difficult to listen to. It echoed a lot of, I think, my issues, especially when she talks about being young. You hear, like, what feels like a girl going through puberty with some of the lyrics and what she wants to
Yeah.
look like when she's older. I mean, it's this song is a little bit heartbreaking, and it makes me sad how much I related to it.
I remember hearing it for the first time and thinking that the beginning and the ending of it sounded like really unsettling. It's almost like a horror movie, the way that it's like it's so high and just like this stark noise that kind of takes you off guard. And if you think about it, that kind of ties back into like, the surgery kind of aspect of it, like this kind of cutting sound. So I think that was very
Mhm.
intentional, obviously.
I think it also like, calls back in escapism and has, like, a through line with that, like, really high synth sound.
Yeah.
And these, like, moments of just, like, these acute, sharp noises remind you that something is not okay here, and it's unsettling, and it's done on purpose. She's not trying to soothe you, she's trying to bring awareness to, like, something is not right here.
She did a performance of this one at the EMAs, I believe that it was, where it was just so powerful to me because it was her and, like, a ton of just, other women background singers, and I think that they were wearing, like, various, things that kinda represent things that they were, like, conscious about, and it's just, it's on the nose, but I feel like this song, this kinda subject matter just kinda has to be,
It has to be.
It's like
There's no other way to go about it. I
yeah,
mean, and I don't think we talk enough about, like, men's body issues. I This is such a relatable thing. We usually talk about this from a woman's perspective, because it requires a certain level of vulnerability to talk about, but body dysmorphia happens to everyone, regardless of
everyone.
gender, and
Yeah,
I think hitting it on the nose, it's an important conversation. We all have bodies. Like she says, it's the only one you'll ever have, and you have to love it.
for sure, for sure. Um but yeah, that ending section with the little girl speaking is I found that to be such like a gut punch at the end of this already, like, difficult song to get through.
It absolutely was, and I think it's done intentionally. They say to talk to yourself like the kid version of yourself. There's a
Mm,
lot of talk about, like, inner child work and stuff, and, I went through a thought exercise one time of, like, would you say these things that you say to yourself to the ten-year-old version of you or the five-year-old version of you? You should talk to yourself with more kindness. And I
yeah,
think that is a stark way of reminding us that we all need to be kinder the way that we talk to ourselves.
I totally agree. Yeah, I've heard that too before, like, what would the younger version of yourself and, like, you now or a future you, like, what would a conversation like that be? Yeah, man, that was that's a genius decision. That's one of those things where I'm like, "Oh, her mind, how did they come up with that?" Like, there's no better way to end a song like this, I feel like. Wanna move on to environmental anxiety?
Yes, so this is her political song. I actually did a whole series on TikTok for a while about political songs, so I'm oddly uniquely qualified to talk about this. What makes for a good political song is never pointing fingers. I remember one of our good professors, we had nothing but good professors. One of my favorite professors, Bonnie Hayes, was talking about political songs, and she's like, "You can't just point fingers because we're all kind of part of the problem." Because I was trying to talk about global warming, and she's like, "You drive a car, you're part of the problem." And I was like, "I drive a car because I have to drive a car." For those of you who don't know, I hate cars.
I do
Um,
too.
I think this song does a really good job of saying, "Why did we think this?" Like, it's we. We are all part of the problem. Even the people realizing are part of the problem. There's a lot of pointing fingers that happens, especially on the internet if you're in political circles, and I think this does a good job of saying, "We've all been part of the problem. What are we gonna do about it?" And in that way, it does kind of bring us all together. I think it's just lacking a punch that I wanted. I don't know. There's something missing from the song for me to make it like a really good anthemic political song. And I need to listen to it a couple more times before I can put my finger on what note is missing.
No, I agree, but I almost feel like I feel like she wrote this song, but didn't really intend it to be a, uh, like a single. Like, it doesn't feel like
Mhm.
a single ready song like Escapism or Oscar-winning Tears. This one almost just feels like it's more like her inner monologue and included here.
She's venting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
particularly because, like, the production here is so overwhelming, it's so loud. There's the random phone call in the middle, and like, I was listening to this album to a couple times to, like, re-prepare for this episode, and it would catch me off guard every time. I'm like, "Who the hell is calling me while I'm, like, doing this?" So, it's just, like, there's so much going on there that I just don't think that this was one that was, like, intended for radio, just based off of the way that's
No,
made.
but the prosody of there being so much going on, that is literally what the situation feels like at all
Exactly.
times, especially with this current administration. Fuck it. Five-star hotels. So we're going from environmental anxiety to having a little fun in a five-star hotel.
It feels like the total opposite.
It does. It
Now we're
feels like
being now we're being lavish, and now we're being
self-indulgent.
yeah, very much so. On
Treat
purpose.
yourself in a
Yes.
five-star hotel. I love how confident this song is about, like, we're both seeing other people, but you know you want me. I love this song, it's fun. We don't have, like, fun, sexy songs like this as much anymore. I want more fun, sexy songs.
Yeah. But also like this is the part of the album where it feels like we've come to like a completely different mindset because this
Yep.
song really is like about escaping too, but it's just doing it in like in a positive way to like a literal space.
And is it necessarily healthy? Maybe, maybe not, but she's coming at it from a more healthy place.
Again, yeah, like it's a gray area.
Yeah.
Another thing I was gonna mention about this particular song with the production is like I love the main instrumental that's just kind of that gentle, plucky guitar that that plays pretty much
Mhm.
like the whole time. And then but then it's like contrasted with like these like really kind of deep hip hop esque drums. And she's like playing around with like a vocoder also, which I think is really cool. And she did that live during the NPR set, which was
Yes.
really cool.
You know what this song really reminds me of? It reminds me of Me and Mrs. Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Like, kinda thematically, it gives that kind of vibe, that kind of feel. It feels like an affair happening in a nice hotel, right? Like, but not in a gross, seedy way and kind of like, I don't know, a classy 1940s way.
They're not cheating, it's an affair. Yeah.
Exactly. An affair has some class to it.
Mhm.
The socioeconomic positioning
Yeah.
of an affair is 2 brackets above cheating.
And speaking of social economic status, let's talk about Worth It.
Oh, I love this song. This is also going on my Steal Something playlist.
Yeah. This is a fun one. This one feels like a single that could be used in, like, a lot of different contexts.
It could, and then so I did just rewatch her, Tiny Desk performance preparing for this. She opens with this song, and she talks about this is about a man who is not worth it. First of all,
But the
love
song
that.
was yeah,
But the song was you know what? If you get a song out of it, especially a song as good as this,
it was
it's
worth
always
it.
worth it, babes.
Yeah.
It was worth it. So he wasn't, but maybe the experience was for the song because the song slaps. I love this song.
Yeah, and it's interesting that she starts off the album talking about a bum guy to the entire audience, and then she kinda wraps it up in a way that, still feels like fun. It's like, "Oh, well, that happened, and it was terrible, but at the end of the day, I still gained something good out of it." It's like a
Exactly.
it's like a thank you next kinda little moment there.
It does give a very thank you next moment. I think we all love that thank you next because we've all been with that person that we regret being with, and you have to make peace with that at some point, with however you acted, with whatever you did, and I think the way you make peace with it is the lessons that you learn
Yeah,
and what you got out of it, and hopefully
exactly.
it's a pop banger.
Exactly, and it's like you can choose to sulk in it forever, but at the end of the day, it's like you have to look at, like, exactly what you said. It's like you have to look at the positive of it and then move on from it. Even if it was something like, "Oh, well, that taught me just to cut things off sooner."
Yeah.
You know? I've learned that.
I've had
I've
a
had
lot
to
of
learn that.
relationships that have taught
Yeah.
me that.
Mhm. Anything else on this one?
Nope, just that I love this song. It's going on my Steal It playlist.
Alright.
I don't know what I'm stealing yet, but
Yeah. Which is
I'm actually thanks to this conversation, I am going to make a playlist called Steal It and just have a bunch of stuff on there. And
Yeah.
maybe I'll release it before I release my next album and be like, "This is the Steal It playlist."
Yeah, for sure. Which, speaking of, I would put this next song on there for myself for sure.
I see that for you,
Yeah,
definitely.
I this was my favorite for sure.
Gon' buzz it down.
Okay, when I saw the track listing for the first time, this is like an album that you can't predict what it's gonna sound like until you're actually listening to it. But when I
Mhm.
saw the name Bust It Down, I was like, oh, this is gonna be like her up in the club moment. And it's like, it's not that. at all.
at all.
Yeah, and I talked about this in the, NPR reaction, but to me, this really felt like the end of, like, a sitcom that you've been watching of, like, really like, have you ever seen Broad City before?
Yes.
I don't know why, but I feel like this would be, like, the perfect closing song to that show, where it's just, like, these 2 messy friends that just, like, don't have anything together, but at the end of the day, they're like, "You know what? I'm gonna keep being weird. I'm gonna keep being me. I don't necessarily need anybody to come my way, but if they do, okay, but they kinda have to match my vibe, not the other way
Yeah.
around." And I think that's really beautiful. I think that this is a really cool song about, like, being happy with yourself, and it doesn't come across as, like, cheesy or
Preachy.
corny or anything like that. Exactly, and it's just, like it's just
She does a really good
fun.
job of never being preachy on this whole album. She does a really good job of, I think, making fun of herself in a few places. I think she does a really good job of not taking things too seriously, even in serious subject matters. She does a good job of keeping it human at all
Yeah.
times, which is, I think, where we get into places where things don't work is because it feels like you're talking about an issue instead of coming at it from the human perspective, which is why we make art, is to humanize things and to make them very reachable. But using this song at the end of an album that has so thematically been about self-discovery and reclaiming one's power is great. And it has such a great joyful element to it.
Yeah.
There's just something about this song that I love. It feels like a graduation almost.
Mhm. For me, it feels like the ending credits, which is very appropriate since, like, the opening song is Oscar-winning tears.
Oscar-winning tears.
Yeah, so it
There's
feels like a good bookend to the album.
It does. There's something so cinematic about this whole, or maybe even, like, it feels like a theater experience. I don't know. It's just so many through lines on this album.
Mhm.
The art of the album is just not lost. It's not. She's got it. She's figured it out.
Yeah. And I also think that it's interesting that the other songs on this album that we're meant to dance to, or like kind of have a little bit of a groove to them, it's like it puts us in a position where it's like not great. You know, like Black Mascara, it's like you can dance to that song, but it's not the ideal situation to be doing it to. But like now we've kind of come full circle in a way where like, oh, okay, now I can dance again in a way that feels fulfilling and in a way where I can carry on with my life in a positive direction.
We need to find and create joy for ourselves and others because joy is what recharges you. And I think that's part of this song, and that's part of finishing on this song, and I think that's part of why she has these dancey beats on top of really moments that feel like maybe you shouldn't be dancing right now, is because you need to remember to find the joy and find the music.
Yeah, I mean, that wraps up my 21st Century Blues. That was a long
Honestly,
conversation, but I mean, with an album that's like this dynamic and deep and versatile, there was no other option.
no,
Right?
Fiend feels like I should be throwing roses onto a stage, like she's bowing and picking stuff
Absolutely.
up. She's gotten her flowers finally. Everyone's so excited for her. I am excited for her. I'm excited to see what she does next. She's earned it, man.
Yeah. I
And this album is the "I've earned it" moment.
Yeah, and I also really like the closing line of like, now my 21st Century Blues is ours. And
Yep.
it kinda just it is this nice cathartic feeling for the audience too, where it's like, "Oh, yeah, we've all been through stuff like this before, but, you know, it's hard to find music that actually talks about it in such like a
Yeah.
blunt, just I'm gonna say it type of way." So it's just I don't know. I was really moved by that. I thought it was just like so beautiful to be like, "Oh, this is my art, but you're a part of it too. You were a part of this experience and journey with me also." So I hope you enjoyed it despite all the
I
ups and
remember
downs.
I remember Patrick Ermlich, who we will probably talk about again, because he was so influential to both of us.
Yeah.
We were kind of like, I was at a writer's retreat, and he was kind of closing out the weekend for us, and he was like, "This is one of the most selfish things that you can do because the second you put music out into the world, somebody takes it, grabs it, and they relate to it, and they're like, "This is mine
This is
now."
mine, and it
And it
means
no
yeah,
longer belongs to the artist, it belongs to that person that has related to it, and it can mean whatever it means to them,
exactly.
right?
Mhm.
He's like, it's making music, you put your whole life into this, and just for someone to take and go, "This is mine now." And I think that's I feel like Fiend is such a nice moment where that line specifically where she acknowledges that. She's like, "Here this is. I've made this. It's yours now. You may have it." And I love that. It's like the artist
Yeah.
handing us the keys to the kingdom. Do you have any final thoughts about my 21st Century Blues?
Man, I think we've said it.
We
You
exhausted
know?
it for sure.
Yeah, I think everything that we said needed to be said. Everything that needed to be said was said. No, I mean this is an album that I've listened to start to finish. I think maybe 4 or 5 times at this point, and it's like it's an album where you always find something new, and you kind of like even just having this conversation, you pointed out things that I didn't notice or like really think about with certain songs and like what they could potentially mean as well. So there's a lot of layers to it. So which again I think makes that last ending statement even more so profound.
It's one of those albums where it actually is that deep.
Yeah.
Curtains are not just blue.
Yeah, but if you wanna get our perspective on any other albums, artists, or, like, music properties, we'll be looking at some of the Netflix specials, like, I don't know why, like, Netflix lately is killing it with, like, music-related content. All of a
Right?
sudden, I'm all for it. Sound off in the comments. Also, let us know what this album means to you, if, like, you had
For
any
sure.
moments that, like, resonated with you. It's a deep album. I think that there's a lot of different subject matters here that people can relate to and maybe just didn't have the courage to be able to do so. Shout out to Ray for being brave enough to put it all out there.
Shout out to Raye. Thanks, girl.
Thanks for tuning in, y'all.
All right, bye.